Hey guys, welcome to Podcast Fandom, the official podcast for ProjectFandom.com. I'm your host, Nina.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are back to discuss Shadow and Bone Season 2. Yay! Woo-hoo. We're going to be talking about the first 2 episodes of the season tonight and covering it 2 episodes a week thereafter. I think it's 8 episodes total. I bet Sarah's seen all of them. How many have you watched?
I stopped at episode 6 because I didn't want to just completely prejudice.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I mean, I know what happened, but I haven't watched it.
So. Okay, right. And I know you've read the book, right? Or books, right? Okay.
Right.
So, a couple of just show stuff to take care of before we get started proper. One, if you guys are listening to this and you hear, if you are a Mac user and you hear that, or I should say Apple user, and you hear that familiar sound of your device acknowledging that it is now attached to a charging device. If you hear that repeatedly, that's my MacBook. The cord is all janky and frayed and I need to get a new one. And so even it's plugged in and I'm not even moving around or touching the computer, but every few seconds you might hear, or every few minutes you might hear that noise. And I'm so sorry about that. As always, though, please go to ProjectFandom.com and check the schedule at the top to see when these podcasts are coming out. This is a free podcast, but it will be up on Patreon early for subscribers, and we have 2 tiers over there. Just as a reminder, you can go to patreon.com/ProjectFandom and sign up. There are certain shows that we cover just on Patreon, including shows like Attack on Titan, Ted Lasso, which we just started covering with this 3rd season. And many, many more. Again, check the schedule. If you are back listening for the first time, maybe since the last time we talked about Shadow and Bone, or maybe you're just back because you know it's Sarah and you're like, I liked her in House of the Dragon and you wasn't fucking with Project Fandom again after that. I don't know. But if this is your first time here for some reason, we do have a website, again, ProjectFandom.com, where we used to do written reviews of TV shows and movies and comic books and books and conventions and all kinds of stuff. Sarah was a writer at the site. Right now, we're just podcasting, and what we have that's available both on Patreon and for free is a little bit behind posting on the website because I had a death in the family last month, and I'm still processing and grieving and dealing with all of that, and of course took some time off from podcasting for a bit, and so we're just trying to get caught up and get back into the swing of things. So if you go to the website, again, if this is your first time here and you're unfamiliar, that's what's been going on. And if you go to the website, it is a bit behind what we have out. We currently are covering a lot of great shows, again, both on Patreon and for free. And again, this is one of them, one of the free shows. We did cover the first season. It feels like it was last year, but it was, obviously it couldn't have been. It was 2021, right? Or 2020?
I think so, 2021.
Okay.
My birthday.
Wait, we started on or did it drop on your birthday?
It all dropped on my birthday.
Ah, okay. I call these the COVID years. And so
yes.
Everything.
It all blurs together.
It's a big fucking blur. And it's so weird whenever I'll see something I saw a post of mine. I was looking for the thread for this in our Facebook group. We have a Facebook group called Podcast Fandom Crew, where listeners and friends gather and we talk about pop culture stuff all day. And I was looking for the thread for this to join the discussion, and for some reason, a post of me telling everybody that the American Gods podcast was available, and it was dated August 2017. And that both felt not that long ago and a century ago. You know what I mean? Anything
yes.
Pre-COVID felt like the golden years. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were. Because, before that, we were doing the written editorials and watching everything. And there was a lot of good TV on. You know what I mean? It was an embarrassment of riches. We would be, I remember nights, some Sunday nights where there would be 2 things on at the same time. And you'd be like, who's watching this and who's watching, who's watching this live and who's waiting.
We were dividing and conquering.
Yeah. And now it just feels like, it's less. It's a little bit, everything feels a little different. We talked about this before. The world feels completely different. But I was sure that this show had been kind of in the thick of COVID when we talked about it the first time. I have not read the books, although this is weirdly enough. So last year, I want to say, towards the summer, my depression got really bad, and I was still in Oregon. I'm in Georgia now. And I went through this thing where I just wanted to read, and I love to read, and I used to read a lot, but I hadn't read for pleasure in a while because I'd been in school for a few years through most of COVID, it felt like. But anyway, I was getting book recommendations from, our friends online and in the group. And Robin had suggested this book. What's the author of this?
Lee Bardugo.
Yes. So it was a book, The Fifth House, I think, written by her. Her. And I may go back to it because the premise, it was right up my alley. And it felt like something. Have you read it?
No.
Okay.
Not that series.
And it just sounded like something I felt like you would like. But I don't know why. Maybe I know why. Maybe just something about her writing. I could not get into it, and I felt so bad. And Robin was like, life is too short for shitty books. Don't worry about it if you can't get into it. But I must have known at some point that was the author of this series and forgot. And so, again, one of the things I saw in the group today when I was looking for our thread, one of the things that came up was me posting the cover of that book. And I think asking, who told me to read this shit? or something like that. And I remember thinking, why was that coming up in the thread? And then as I was watching the second episode today that we're going to talk about, and I'm seeing the credits in the beginning, I saw her name. And I was like, oh, right, that's right, yeah. So I haven't read the books, but you have.
Right.
Based off the Shadow and Bone series. But as you know, how we do here, Sarah's not going to spoil anything, but she will provide insight into stuff, especially because I remembered next to nothing about season 1.
It feels like it's been ages.
But you know what, Sarah? I didn't used to be that way. I would be the one on the podcast making fun of. And now, granted, that was something I watched once, and now, even now, I can be season 4, episode this, Rick and Michonne did that, But here, I was just I didn't remember a lot of stuff, but thankfully, they did a recap on Netflix, when you start the first episode, and I love that they have the little thing up there that says skip recap, and I was like, abso-fucking-lutely not.
What am I even watching?
I need this recap. And it was great because it went through everything, and I'm embarrassed by how much, the antlers that they put on her. Forgot about that.
Yes. Yeah.
Nina getting Matthias arrested to save him. Forgot about that. Listen, I didn't even remember her name until the for some reason I always remembered Mal's name, but I didn't even remember Alina's name. I didn't. And the crows, I didn't remember their names. But I knew they were the crows. You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to dive in a moment. I want to hear Sarah's kind of overall thoughts on these 2 episodes and maybe the season so far, if she feels comfortable sharing, if she feels like she could talk about that without spoiling and what she's seen so far. If you want to join the conversation after we talk about the episodes, I read feedback. If you want to tell us your thoughts on a particular episode, you can send it to feedback@projectfandom.com. Just make sure you put in the subject line of the email the name of the show and the episode that it's about, so that I don't spoil myself, because I'm probably going to just watch the 2 a week and very soon before we record, just to make sure everything's fresh in my head, because this isn't a show that I'll typically get a chance to watch twice, like once to just enjoy it and then the second time to take notes. So I'll be watching along with, the slow pace. So if you want to send in feedback, just make sure you clarify it in the subject line. Okay, so Sarah, what did you think of these 2 episodes? And if you feel like you want to say anything about what you've seen of the season so far, you can.
Sure. Yeah, I thought I would. First up, I'll just say about these episodes, and then I want to kind of warn people / tell them maybe how much of the books are included in this, if they're kind of like flirting with the idea of reading the books, or if they're like, well, where can I find out more about this?
Right.
You may not be able to. But overall, I enjoyed the episodes. I was really impressed. They built into these episodes.
Wait,
like,
repeat. You broke up for 1 second. You were really what?
I was really impressed with how much plot they because I'm used to a bit more fluff lately from Netflix. Like I was watching First Bite and that kind of, was that what it was called?
Oh, yeah, with the vampire, the lesbian story.
Yes.
The vampire and the vampire
hunter.
Lesbian
vampire teens.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking more like 45 minutes, including credits. And when they came through with like the full 63 minutes and most of it was plot, I was like, what, how much more are we going here? And it was... Yeah.
So you were saying that you were surprised by how much plot they were covering in these episodes. And I'm assuming like because you've seen more, but you were pleasantly surprised by that.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a lot of story in these episodes and not just kind of like touching base, and one major plot and not much else.
Right.
And I liked a lot of the kind of new value adds for season 2, like with the title cards and the maps in particular.
That
I thought was a
so
big
helpful.
Plus.
Yes.
Yeah, because a lot of the questions we were getting, and even the questions we had, were, where is this? How far is this?
Right.
Where is this in relation to that? And I hope that really helps people. And I also like the fact that they're including more of like, this is the English to Ravkan kind of translation.
I noticed that. Yeah. There was somebody speaking Shu at one point, and then yeah.
And Nina speaks Suli very briefly, so that was nice. But on the other hand, in comparison of these episodes to the rest of the season, I thought there were some clunky lines in these first 2 episodes in particular, a little bit of, like you mentioned on Facebook, Disney acting, a little bit of soap opera acting, for Alina and Sturmhund in particular.
Yeah.
And there's a good amount of invented plot here, which is not all bad, but in comparison to the main actors, some of the fill-in invented parts, assistants are not good. They were really bothersome to me.
Wait, the Who, because it cut out again. The Who were not good?
The Darkling's assistants.
Oh,
these are like invented characters.
Oh, those. You mean the smoke demon thingies?
No, I mean his like the girl he meets up with in the countryside.
Like, what was the purpose
the guy
of her?
The lab.
Yes. Okay.
What's that?
Oh, yes. Because I was like, what was the purpose of her?
There isn't one.
Okay.
There isn't one. They're just made up, and I thought that the acting for those guys were not.
It was not good.
Weird, and their look is weird, and but we'll get in more into it. But I think that going forward, everybody settles much better into their character. Not those guys, but everybody else settles better into their characters, especially Sturmhond. So I don't know what kind of direction they were giving him for these first 2 episodes, but he's not like that in the remainder of the season.
Interesting.
So,
okay.
Yeah, which I like, because he's supposed to be a very charming character.
Well, I have to say, I liked him a lot. I don't know why.
Liked him. I just thought he was a little Disney prince-ish. Yeah, he was just a little too over the top, like, you know, like Gaston or something.
Right.
Like,
fair.
Calm it down a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
But as far as the book material, you know, if you're thinking, well, I might read the books, or where can I find this in the books? You should know that this season of Shadow and Bone, they basically chop the first book, or the second book of the Shadow and Bone series in half and use the first half of it. And don't use the last half at all. And then they chop the first half of the third book out and only use the last half of the third book. So it's really weird. And then with the crows, a lot of this is invented material.
Because they're not really in the book, right? Like they have their own series.
Right. They never interact with Sturmhond in particular.
Okay.
And they material from the second Crows book in than the first Crows, and yet they still have left the big Crows heist out of the first book of the Crows. So is strange, and on top of that, because the Crows were so popular in the first season, I don't know. Is it that they're cheaper than Ben Barnes? I don't know. But they're very charming actors, and I like them a lot. But they use them as like hype men, you know, for the season.
Yeah.
Because I guess they were more available or something.
Yeah.
And so they naturally got more popular. And those two books are more popular than the first series because Shadow and Bone is very YA, and those are a little more adult than young adult. So, but then they were like, well, everybody likes the Crows better because we featured them more, because we hyped them more. So we're going to put them more in the second season. And as a result, somebody went through in my timeline and calculated how much Alina is in her own series. And it's like 20 minutes an episode.
Listen.
I'm like, this is her series.
But I mean, she
has more material that they didn't give her, though, you know?
Listen, all right, let me say something. I don't like her acting.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I liked it in the first season. I do not like her acting. It is, and now I was thinking about it before we got started, and I was like, what is it? Because it's not like it's her, like it's unique to her. It is a way of acting that I just don't care for. And I said in the thread, I called it Disney Channel acting. It kind of reminded me, it's better acting than this person, but it kind of reminded me of the Emily Kinney. Like, it's a lot of face acting.
Yeah.
But I think... And so I don't know if that's just like a training thing, like, you know what I mean? Like depending on if you're trained in the theater versus this or like types of acting schools. I don't know enough about acting to say. Yeah. But I will say that it's not just her, because I feel like the actress who plays what's her name? Genya. And again, and I was thinking about this in particular with her scenes with the Darkling after they commandeered that house.
Right.
That I wonder what the direction was, because it was so much face acting. Like,
yeah, I did not love that.
And I don't know what the point is. Like, and it's kind of like a pet peeve of mine. It's like, we can get that she's afraid and that she's not 100% behind this motherfucker being alive, right? Like, but she was about to be executed in this cage, and he's powerful, so she has to play along or whatever. But like, does she need to look completely terrified every second that she's around him? Like, it becomes, it was so over the top that I was like, he's just going to snap your neck because you look like you can't wait to get away from him or betray him.
Well, and I understand that she's got a lot of issues with how he, you know, fed her the king and whatever in the first series. But although he also made her fed her to the king, is what I mean.
I was like, you know, how did I miss the cannibalism?
No, not cannibal. Sorry, that's the wrong word. But but he also made killing the king as her revenge possible. So it's,
right.
like they were in concert for the most part for like 20 years.
Yeah.
So the fact that she's acting like he absolutely did die and she knew he died and then she knew he came back to life. Like she's acting like that. Not that like, oh, I thought you died, but clearly you didn't.
Right. Yes, exactly.
It's a totally different thing.
Exactly. So anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, it's fine. I was just wrapping that up in that, I'm just saying that story of Alina and the Dark, they lost a lot of material.
Okay.
30 to 40 additional minutes of a made-up story with the crows, which I love the crows.
But we think... Okay, but let me ask you. See, because I'm okay with this that you're telling me. Because I find the crows stuff way more interesting.
It is compelling, yeah.
Now, and I don't know that Alina has much chemistry with the Darkling, because, like, it's something I can get behind. Because it's Ben Barnes, and I'm for the whole, I'm with it. I'm not tisk-tisking this relationship or whatever, but I don't know that they work. Like when they're together, I am not like, I think she has better chemistry with Mal, but it's boring chemistry. What?
How dare you?
I do. I was surprised because, one of the things where, like, when they did the recap...
Any chemistry with Mel.
Listen, I didn't remember how their relationship ended, right? Because she had sex with the Darkling, didn't she? Or was she about to?
No.
She was about to.
They were about to.
Right. And that's when the thing happened and the mother was like, girl, get in here.
Yes.
So let me tell you about my raggedy ass son. But I couldn't remember how they ended things. Like, I felt like, that they had never explicitly said that they wanted to be together. So I couldn't remember if they had kissed or not. So in this episode, when they did that thing in the first episode with the hotel room and the one bed, and I'm like, why are y'all acting like children? But then they started like kissing and dry humping, and I was like, uh-oh. Right. And I didn't hate it. I was like, I like them together, but I don't feel like that kind of naughty, sexy, dirty temptation between her and the Darkling. Like, because I definitely blame her. Like, I just don't think she has chemistry with Ben Barnes.
I think, it may be like better to talk about this like in the episode, because I think she's doing too much taunting, like there isn't any chemistry because there are no real moments where they're like they had incredible chemistry last season, especially in the map table makeout scene.
Right. Okay. I don't remember, but I'm taking your word for it. Okay.
I've probably watched that like 700 times. Sorry, but but then this season it's this like weird taunting, like you never buy, like he's into it,
right?
But she's not into it because she's just taunting literally everyone.
Okay.
And I'm like, settle down. Like,
see, I'm here for the crows. I'm sorry. Yeah. So look, it's so funny because like people listening now, I'm curious to know people who are watching, plan to watch, have already watched this season, like what side they kind of fall, like what they enjoy more, and it tells me it's something people are talking about if folks are like timing how much screen time.
Yes. I mean, the majority of the people are into the crows part,
because
but they're
it's not
doing
bad,
a spin-off series.
But they're not. Yeah, I was about to say. I mean, I get it. It's not that they're bad, but it's not that they're not Shadow and Bone. I guess if Shadow and Bone, like if you've read the books, then you know that this is not the books, And
yeah,
I can understand if you enjoy these interactions between Alina and the Darkling and other stuff going on from the books, and you're not getting that. I could understand the frustration, even though you could be like enjoying the Crow stuff, but still be like, okay, but where's my Shadow and Bone stuff? Yeah.
And I do love, I love the Crows, and I love the Caper, and I love everybody involved in that. And I think that the casting for the Crows is just outrageous. Like all of them are
It's
perfect,
so good. It's so good. Yeah.
And it's so funny how some people are watching, it like the second or third time, and they're like, why am I just now noticing that Kaz is really hot? I don't know, because he was definitely there the first time. But
I'm trying to remember. I haven't looked it up. I suppose I should go to IMDb. Well, I got to get that episode title, so I'll do that. I'm sorry. Was that it? Was that your?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I just want to say that I am enjoying this. I feel like, I don't know, I could be a liar. I'm getting old and I eat edibles like every day. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like I am enjoying these 2 episodes way more than I enjoyed the beginning of the first season. And some of that is because it is the second season and I don't have to work as hard. Like, even though I didn't remember stuff, the recap helped. But once I was like back in it, I was like, oh yeah, they got beef with this and this and that. And like, and I just felt like it was more enjoyable to follow. They didn't feel like there was like dead moments or like scenes where I'm just like, I think this person is supposed to be important, but I don't care about this. Like everything, it just kind of flowed for me.
Yeah.
And, like I said, I won't harp on it too much. I did have issues with a couple of the actors. And I feel like Alina runs the risk of being the kind of the type of female protagonist that I'm not particularly fond of. And I understand that she, at the very least, the character is supposed to be biracial, right? Like the Asian, in this universe.
She is in this show.
In the show, right. In real life, I think she's fully Asian, right? I don't think she's like Caucasian and Asian. I'm not sure. But anyway, in the show, she's supposed to be. But this is something that is typically seen in white female protagonists where it's like they're special. Yeah. And they act like it to the detriment of others. And it's allowed. And so like when she was like, well, I want to go after the Sea Whip. And they're like, all right, well, everybody get the weapons and we're going to kill this bitch. And she's like, no, we can't kill it.
Right.
And then like 2 people die immediately. And it's like, I feel like you have to
see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like you have to offer up a bit more than, and granted, they knew what they were getting into, right? Like they're privateers and, they've scrapped with stuff before. But at the same time, it's like, you kept these orders of like, don't kill anything. And then the moment y'all got in there, it killed 2 people. And then you finally did your thing. And I'm like, ugh.
Right.
So she has the case. I think it's possible that she can kind of fall into tropes like that I don't typically enjoy. But everything else I'm really liking. I even think I feel like I like Mal more than I liked him in the first season. And I like all the black people. I was like, whoa, when we went to this new region. And so I like that we're seeing more of that. And I like how they show, it kind of reminds me of this anime that we're covering, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and how they use alchemy like in the West, like pretty much how we would use it here in the West here with like military, militaristic. Yeah. And to harm people and to like govern and expand your power and stuff like that and oppress people. And in the East, they use it for like medicinal stuff, Yes. And so I like how here and I think we talked about this in the first season where you were explaining the magic of it all and how it's more like alchemy, right? Like it's not, if I'm maybe I'm mixing up shows. I watch a lot of TV, guys. I'm sorry. But it kind of reminded me of that, like where these people use their, like, so later when the woman in the library was like, we wish good things for the Grisha, like they're the same type of people, but they use their powers differently.
Yes.
And so, like, when that guy was trying to be like, step aside, these people are fugitives in our country. And they were like, well, you ain't in your country. Like,
Right.
need to go back where you came from. But, so I love stuff like that. I love the kind of expanding, of the world, and that there are more people of color, and like the shoe people, which, you know, I don't think we saw any in the first season. And then we get, if I'm not mistaken, that brother and sister, right?
Right.
Yeah. In these 2 episodes. So, all right. Are you ready to talk about the episodes?
I am.
I want to say really quickly, hold on. Let me say the titles real quick. So the first episode is called No Shelter But Me. And the second episode, I can't pronounce this. How do you say this?
Rissolye.
Rissolye. What was that?
It means the ice dragon. So that's the sea whip.
That's the sea whip. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wanted to look up, we see him a lot, and the actor playing young Kaz. I hope he is listed here, because I swear I've seen that little boy before, and I think where I was...
Flynn Edwards.
Is that his name? Was he in 1899? Was he in 1890? Yes, he was.
He was the boy.
Oh, he was the boy.
Right.
So I was like, I'm looking at him and I'm like, I think that's who that is. And it is him. Okay. All right. I'm not racist. Good on me. Mixing up my little white boys. All right. So let me pull up my notes. So that No Shelter But Me, I think we call. Okay. So I'm not going to lie. Oh, I was sorry. I was in the wrong episode. That was the second one. Okay. Yeah. No Shelter But Me. So, it begins with Mal and homegirl Alina. They have fake papers, right? And they're they're trying to get passage onto another boat, I believe, right? And she's concerned because she's been having these dreams about the fold expanding, which how the episode begins is with her dream of this happening, and she quickly learns that that's not the case, that they're not just dreams, that it's actually happening, and they're like refugees fleeing because the fold has taken like half their village as it expanded, right?
Right.
And of course, you know how I go. I just have a very broad, okay, this is what this was about, but if there's anything in specifically that I skip over and you want to like circle back to, do your thing. And I like the transition where like the guy who's taking the tickets asks, or checking their papers, asks where they're from, and they say Ketterdam, I believe. And then like we transition there. And like you said, they're doing the whole thing with the map, where we're with the crows, who are not going to engage in any dice and debauchery. Instead, they're going to go home first, but they find out that their no longer belongs to them. It belongs to, well, I don't know if they find this part out now, but basically Pekka.
Yeah.
They find out at some point that Pekka owns it, and then they are arrested. This was so funny. I actually rewound. Kaylee came in the room towards the end of this episode, I think, and I rewound it to show her this part when the cops were like, you hand over those guns, and you give us that cane, and then she was gone.
Right. I love how she keeps doing that. That's my favorite.
Yes. And Jesper was like, she does that. And they're like, we'll find her later.
Yeah.
I love that. So what's going on here with, when they're in the wagon on the way, what they think they're going to Hell's Gate, which is the prison, which we'll see more of later. And they find out that later they're framed for murder. Because I'd forgotten that we saw that they killed the woman who owned that menagerie, right? He killed that woman last season. We did see that, right? I feel like we saw her death.
I'm not sure, but maybe. I don't know if we saw him kill her. He was threatening her.
Okay. So they're going to find out later that that's who they are framed for killing, right? But here they're in the wagon, and Kaz, because I think I forgot. All right. Later, I noticed the gloves, and then I was like, I thought I remember something. Does he have an issue with touching people?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure that, like, I mean, I'm pretty sure they revealed last season in a very brief flash that the reason he can't touch people or have people touch him is because he was on the barges of dead, diseased people back in the day when he and his brother first came.
So, and you see that here in these like flashes, right? Okay. See, I didn't remember like that at all.
Touching him repeatedly, yeah.
So, okay, but continue because I cut you off. They can't touch him. Is it just like something like a phobia he developed from that, or is there like a real, like a physical reason that people shouldn't touch him?
No, it's just
the phobia. Okay,
right.
Okay, so because if you are like me and you didn't remember shit from the first season and they didn't cover it in the recap, or you don't remember them covering it in the recap, the way this played was almost like that man touching him was triggering flashes, like memories.
Right. Like powers.
Yeah, and it played very supernatural. And so I have here in my notes, panic attacks, because it felt all like the way he physically reacted to it. It felt like he was having a panic attack.
Yeah, and you know, it's a fair question because, you know, we uncover several hidden Grisha or unknown Grisha or people who are not, and so, you know, you don't know, but as far as we know, he doesn't have any particular powers. Okay. It's just, you know, that he's having flashbacks.
Remember when I thought Jesper was a vampire? That shit cracks me up every time I remember that stupidity. And you were like, girl, it is not that type of show.
Yeah.
Relax.
No vampires.
No vampires. But he was special. Just not that special.
Right.
Here's the next thing I have in my notes. How are we saying his name again? Sturmond? No, how do you say his name?
Sturmhond.
Sturmhond is cute. That's what I have in my notes.
He is.
I have rich pirate. So basically, it turns out that the guy who had hired the crows to go fetch the Sun Summoner in the very beginning has them brought in instead of going to jail just for 10 minutes to find out where the fuck is my money and my Sun Summoner or my Sun Summoner. And they figure out that he wasn't the one bankrolling that whole thing. It was the Sturmhond.
Right.
And
he's just standing behind him.
Yeah.
And, you know, and you can the clothing here, like his henchman outfit, you know, like it's like, did you put this together this morning and be like, ooh, this looks like a henchman? He's got his like gold and he's got an emerald.
Yeah, that's the thing I noticed first was the jewel. I was like, why does he have such a big jewel?
Right. On his button, you know?
Yeah.
And Kaz is like, all right, you're clearly not in charge. This guy is. You're dismissed.
He dressed like if like you got a last minute invite to a party and it was like a theme. And it's like the theme is mafia. He was like, what do I have in my closet?
Black on.
Yes. That makes me I'll be a henchman in the mafia. Right. But yeah, Kaz pieces it together pretty quickly. I love that Jesper didn't. Jesper was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
He's still catching up, yeah.
Yeah. Even to the point where Jesper was like, what are you doing? Because he does trade the money that they would have gotten for the necklace that Alina gave them. He trades that for information on the ship that she was on and where it was headed.
Right.
And I like that he was like, she could be anywhere from there. Like, you know, like I gave him a head start, but also like we come out of this, we get money, right? Like we have money now. We're not getting out of this empty handed. And the guy gave them like a 20-second head start to get away from the cops.
Right.
Yeah.
And he could see that essentially Sturmhond was just looking for validation for something that know, he'd already put the whole picture together. He was just looking for Kaz to be like, yes, that's where she went.
What did you think of Sturmhond, like, when he was like, sources tell me that when she got on the ship headed into the fold, she was wearing this necklace. And I was like, really? Okay. I guess.
Well,
I was like, you got some good ass sources.
It's just information for later. There are a lot of little things like, do you recognize me in profile? You know, things like that that they haven't gotten to yet.
Okay, good. Okay. And it turns out that Kaz knows that Jesper is a Durist.
Yeah.
Durist? Did I say it right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And he gives him some metal that he turns into like a key, right? To get out of the cuffs that he's in. Yeah.
And we had debated that, of course, last year with the vampire. Like, what kind of person is he? Is he a vampire? No. But, you know, just in case people hadn't put it together in their rewatch or they had kind of forgotten, Kaz goes ahead and reminds everyone that even though his rifle locked up when they were escaping in the train car,
that's right,
he was able to fix it without even moving, and he never missed. And the fact that he took Kaz's metal cane, back to his tent and fixed it and brought it out, you know, and he didn't have any tools to do that. So
that's right.
It's like, I've known, you know, I've had your number this whole time.
Right.
So.
So where do Mal and Alina go? What's the name of this place? I didn't write it down with all the black people.
Right. It's Novia Zim.
Novia Zim?
Mm-hmm.
When they reach there, they literally get a room. And they start to fool around, but they have tasks. Because, at this point, I wasn't sure what the fuck the Sea Whip was. I was like, is it a ship? Like, what?
Right.
And because I had completely forgotten about the antlers until the recap, I was like, oh, that's fucking right. He put them antlers in her collarbone.
Right.
I slowly pieced together. In the but in that little recap, there was a shot of like the fold, but it was Alina's voiceover. And she was saying how she needed to get another amplifier. And I remember thinking, I don't remember that. Like, was that the plan at the end of season 2? One that because that felt new to me. But again, I didn't remember a lot. But because it was like a voiceover, I wondered if that was something they added in there.
You know, I don't know. I don't remember that. And I also don't remember the antlers sinking into her collarbone at the very, all the way. But in case people are wondering, where are the antlers? They're inside her.
Yeah, they
now.
went, yes.
So they, once she accepted, she discovered that, that the power of the buck belonged to her, that it granted her the power, and that even though the Darkling had a piece of it, that doesn't mean that he controls it, and that the fact that he killed it doesn't make any difference, because this is the stag chose her.
Right.
So by accepting that fact, it sunk all the way in and kind of merged with her body.
Merged with her. And you see that later with the scales, automatically. Yeah.
Right.
It kind of reminded me of you just talking about it and seeing it in the recap, the House of the Dragon with Rhaenyra. Do you remember it was the baby's birthday? And the Lannisters hosted that thing, and it was the whole thing about catching the white stag or something. It's supposed to be a symbol. Right. Yeah. I probably remember that.
Exactly.
So they decide that she's going to go to the library to look up these nautical maps. And I forgot it wasn't until that scene when she's in the library looking at those maps that she is a cartographer, right? Is that the right word? Right. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh yeah, that's right.
Right.
She's actually really smart. She knows some things.
Yeah. And she's been doing it since she was a child.
That's
she's
right.
Been obsessed with maps.
That's
so.
right. And so that's what she does. She goes to the library and she gets these maps and she's looking in this particular area and she notices that it's like hidden. You see it through the light. And so she uses her powers to kind of pinpoint. And then that's when I got that the sea whip was an actual like beat, because you could see it in the, like, it looks like a little dragon, like a water dragon. Yeah. On the map, right?
And just a quick note back to the hotel room. I don't think Jamel watches this show, but just in case, I have to point out that they were on the bed in their outside clothes, and I am so disgusted because they have been wearing these clothes for 2 weeks.
They've been wearing those clothes since season 1.
And they note that there is a bathtub.
I did not, and then started fooling around.
God, when there's your teeth at least.
When there's a perfectly good bathtub right there. Not only in their outside clothes, but with their outside shoes on, and they looked physically, like, they looked visibly dirty. Yes.
Yeah. So gross.
Yeah, it was very gross. And then, like, okay, so earlier in the episode, and I know we're still early in it, but at some point they had shown somebody sticking up this poster. And it's a drawing of the Darkling and Alina, right?
Right.
And at first, it looked like a flyer for like a play. And I was like, did somebody make a... like Aria, you know what I mean? Like, did somebody go and make a story about this shit already? I didn't get that it was a wanted poster because it looked so good, right? Like...
Yeah.
It looked just like them. And they're typically not that good. So then later, when the lady in the library sees it, she's like, it's the Sun Summoner. I was like, of course, because that fucking drawing looks just like her. And that's the only reason I bought it. That's the only reason I bought that she recognized that girl so quickly. Was because because she had just had the newspaper she was trying to hide, but because they made it ridiculously accurate. Like,
yes.
It was
oh my God. The thought about the play is really funny. I was just watching the end of Carnival Row. So they had the second and final season of it, and it was terrible. But wait,
when was the first season? Because I feel like that show, like, again, COVID years.
Like, 2019.
Yeah, like it felt like it was a minute. Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
It was a long time. It was so long that the entire writing staff left. And so they basically rebooted, and the whole the whole second season is nothing like the first season. Like, the first season is like Orlando Bloom is a half fairy, half regular person. Yes. Cop who's like a gumshoe, and he's got a girlfriend who's a fairy, and there's like fairy hoes, you know, and everybody is like, you know, having fairy sex and fairy drugs.
Right.
There's like all kinds of different things, and you know, so that and I mean, that's what it was. It was just fairy smut,
right,
and detective work. And the second season was literally the French Revolution / Russian Revolution. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? I was so stressed. There was so much like political like craziness that was like translated over to the fairies. And
you're like, this went from being True Blood to being the West Wing, and I didn't sign up for this shit.
Yes. It was so complicated. And like, I mean, do we know about the Russian Revolution like in that kind of depth? And like, I couldn't figure out what their point was. Like, communism is bad. Did we know this? Yes, we do. And you know, it's just, anyway, it was weird. And I was about to like throw my whole laptop in the ocean because they end it with a puppet show.
Oh, see,
on the street.
See,
of like what happened in the series, and I was like, y'all don't stop.
They did a series recap at the end of the series in the form of a puppet.
Oh my God. So when you said the play, I was triggered.
I'm sorry. But I will tell, I'm slow. I didn't realize they were wanted posters until until that happened. And then the next time you see it, it's with the crows, which was also ridiculously accurate. It's like, it looks just like them. Okay. So yeah, she's recognized in the library, and Mal is, I forget what he was trying to do. Was he trying to get them passage on another ship to go to wherever they thought the sea was going to be, or what? But he ends up getting recognized by his old military boss.
Right. So what he was doing to start with was chatting up the local fishermen to see, are there areas that you won't go? Are there areas where there aren't fish? Have you heard of a large predator in a certain area? And they both came to the same conclusion.
Got it. So. And if I just read my own notes, I would have answered my own question I have right here. But he got to go get fisherman clues. See how my notes work?
Whatever.
Whatever gets me there. So he's on the run. This was hilarious. This whole chase scene, because he was parkouring. It was so comical. When he Look, there was a moment I was complaining when they ran through the guy, the market, with the stalls and stuff and the vendors. And the one guy was like, hey, it costs this much. And I was like, y'all not going to run through fucking up these black people's stuff. And then he came back. Yes, I was like, that's right. But I love it because you see, they set up with the library conversation and even this, that these people in Nova Zem?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It's not unbelievable that they would step in and help them get away after you see that. Yeah.
Yes, they're sympathetic to the Grisha plight.
Yeah. And there's certain parts of the show where, I know I said Disney Channel acting. There's certain parts that's very... God help me. I know people are probably going to yell at me. Don't yell at me. Don't hop. Well, my Twitter is now private. I was going to say, don't hop in my mentions, but don't hop in the feedback and yell at me. But some of it feels very a Saved by the Bell. It's extras.
Yeah.
So this whole scene, where they stepped in, it felt like a stage play.
Yes, that's in my notes.
Okay.
To me, it felt like a stage production down to costumes, which are gorgeous.
Right.
But that you can see the creases and the fact that they've never been worn before.
Right.
They don't look worn
at
all,
costumes.
Yes, they look like costumes, and then they conveniently close around, and then they stand there. And there's even one guy who, I swear to God, I don't know, he looks like he's about to break out in a song, and lead them back and forth.
Yes,
just
it felt.
What is happening?
It felt very much like a stage prep, and I didn't, I liked the outcome and everything, but I wasn't wasn't feeling that. It just felt like a weird, a different type of show for a minute.
Right. The fight was fun. You know, he's supposed to be a great fighter, so
yeah. And I think it was like that in the fight later with Inej, and I have his name written down, starts with an M later on the rooftop. That looked a little stiff at times, but it was good. The fight choreography was good, I thought. It was choreographed in a way that you could believe that she was holding her own, and and the way she moved and stuff, but it felt very and again, I don't know enough about fight choreography to say if this is a style thing, and so it's meant to look like that, where you can see every transition, I'm gonna duck, and to the point where it looks rehearsed. It looks, you know what I mean? And I don't know, but maybe that's okay for this time. I don't know, but I did like what I saw. I liked the fighting. I didn't know if I loved the execution, but with Mal, I liked both. The scenes with Mal.
Right.
So this is when the crows learn why they were framed, right, for killing that woman, and then they learned that Pekka Rollins, I just usually write Pekka, sorry,
Me too.
owns the club and the menagerie, which is where she was an indentured servant to Inej, right?
Right.
So Cash tries to get Inej to leave, like give her money, and I think he tells her. Was he telling her to go find the Sun Summoner and, like, protect her? Because she's a believer, right?
Right.
So was that where he was trying to get her to go?
Yes. I mean, as you can probably tell, he loves her, so he's trying to get her away from the center of the shit. And basically, he's, like, throwing this at her with the bait of, you go protect Alina, because he knows of her devotion to Alina. He thinks, well, this will be the only thing that'll get her to go. Okay. And as it was,
No, it did not work. Another note I want to say really quickly, just FYI to listeners at home. I bought these time-released air fresheners because I went to my aunt's house, my dad's sister, a couple weeks ago, last weekend. And her house just smelled so good, like, the entire time I was there. Like, just so fucking good. And it made me feel bad. Like, I was like, what does my house smell like? And I put out air fresheners, but, like, eventually they, go dead, and then I'll maybe wait a couple of months and remember to replace them. So I was like, you know what?
Right.
What if I want to have a nice smell, and it was like a clean, fresh, I don't like floral stuff. I like sweet candied smells, or like clean, like fresh linen, Mm-hmm. So I got these time release air fresheners, and I wasn't really paying attention when I put them in my cart. But long story short, I was getting something from Lowe's. I had to replace a toilet seat, and your order has to be like a certain amount, to get the free delivery and charge, whatever. So I was like, I'll get some air fresheners. So anyway, it's this thing where you take the can. And so if I really thought about it, I probably wouldn't have gotten these aerosol cans. You put the can in the thing, and you set the timer to go off I think, like, the lowest is every 10 minutes, and the longest is every 40 minutes. So I have one in my bedroom. And I got Ocean Breeze, if you're curious. And I got 2 others throughout the house. Every 40 minutes, it sounds like somebody queefing in my room. And it just happened. And we might be talking 40 minutes from now. So if you hear it again, that's what's happening. It sounds like somebody trying to squeeze ketchup out of a bottle.
Yes.
It's so terrible. My dog hates it every time. It woke him up the other day while he was sleeping on the floor, and he looks at it, and he just looks at me like, are you okay with this? Like, what's wrong? So, apologies if you hear it. Okay. It's so embarrassing. I'm so, like, nervous. Somebody's going to be like, why are there people farting on this podcast?
No.
So, he mentions again the need of a heart renderer. Right? Heart?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And they had, one thing I'd forgotten, which they covered in the recap, was that they had mentioned this on the ship, right? When they split up with, parted ways with Alina and them. And Nina was on the ship, and she overheard that.
Yeah.
And so that explains later why she has been following them. We find out later. But he mentions it again, that this is what they need. And meanwhile, Pekka frames them yet again, this time for killing a cop.
Right. Because, only a certain percentage of people will care about a madam.
Right.
But,
right.
If you really want to finish somebody, make them a cop killer.
I was like, man. Then we're introduced to Wylan, and I wasn't 100% sure who he was or what his purpose was, but I eventually figured out he's the guy who made the phosphorus bombs that they used against the Volcra, right?
Yes.
And so, did we see him in the first season?
No.
Okay.
They didn't cast him until, yeah.
Is he big in the books? Or, well, he would have to be in the Crow books, right? But is he...
Right. He's definitely an important part of the Crows, or at least the inner crew.
Mm-hmm.
And there's kind of an extra story about him as to how he falls into the group that they've kind of skipped. So I don't know if they're going to do that or not. But like Dreesen, let's say, the guy that hired them in the first
with
series,
the big mustache,
right, and who turns out to be not the guy with the money.
Yeah, right.
He's actually a different person named Jan van Eyck, and I don't know if they're going to go there or not. They may leave that whole thing out, so we'll see. But anyway, Wylan falls to this crew as a result of something that Jan van Eyck hires them to do, and so he is important. But this kind of look of kind of like little boy, but actually not little boy, is his vibe.
Yeah. Okay, so not in this, like the first scene that you see him in, but like later, there's a scene with him, and I want to say Jesper in his shop. And I rewound it to show Kaylee, and I was like, I feel like he looks like an anime character. He's very like waifish boy, very pretty. The only thing, like if his hair was like a color, like, you know what I mean, like blue or something,
it would be.
Yeah, I was like, he looks and he like moves like an anime protagonist. Like I'm just waiting for his like moment. You know what I mean? Like he's still So I'm intrigued by this character.
Yeah. And just in case anybody is a little bit skeeved or something, or concerned that there's a big age difference between him and Jesper or something like that because they keep flirting back and forth or something, they're the same age in real life. They're both grown men. So don't worry about it. He just looks young.
And I was wondering, because I forgot that Jesper was gay until they were under that cart, under that wagon. And I was like, because that's a very classic kind of like moment for flirtation between two characters, and so I didn't know if that's where we were going. Nina saves Inej and wants to help in exchange for getting her homie out of Hellgate, and that's what I have written here, homie, because I forgot his name was Matthias until she says it in episode 2. She wants help. She will help in exchange for getting homie out of Hellgate, which is pretty terrible because they cut to Hellgate and it looks like its name.
Right. It's Alcatraz, basically.
Yes, it is Rikers, honey. It's bad, bad.
It's bad.
And
I just want to reiterate that although I do enjoy Matthias with no shirt on, because I, am a human and I have eyeballs, and I'm sure he's a very charming person, I hate the voice he is doing. This is a voice he's doing.
Wait.
Like it.
You're saying, okay, not accent, his voice.
His voice is bugging the shit out of
me. I don't remember what it sounds like. What does it sound like? Why is it bad?
It's just, this guy is from Wisconsin. I don't mind if you do an accent, but why are you doing a voice like this? Like, stop.
You sounds
like it fucking hurts.
You sound like, what's his name from The String?
Yes. It's not real.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. Now, that's all I'm going to think about when
it's like fake husky, and I don't get it. Like, people from, essentially Norway, they don't talk like that. Like, what are you doing?
Alina and Mal end up leaving with these two. It turns out they're brother and sister, who are from Shuhan, right? Or they're half Shu, right? Just like she is, right?
Just like she is.
Right.
So Tulya and Tamar, and they had introduced them kind of in the street, where they had heard the kerfluffle of Mal and Alina trying to get away from the army, and I was really happy with their introduction because I was a little worried because in the book they're Tolia is kind of, I don't know if you're familiar with like Worf, essentially. Like he's strong and silent from Star Trek.
Star Trek, the black guy with the thing on his forehead.
Yes, like strong, silent, man of few words, but also loves poetry. Just kind of like they're extremely talented, but they don't have a lot to say.
Ah, okay.
And so the way that they put them in, I was like, it just feels, like sometimes her characterization of him feels a little racist. So I was a little concerned with that. And then, but the way that they introduce these, and of course, Louis Tan is a great actor. And I thought that their spin on the twins was great.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy them a lot. So
and they
end up so relieved.
They end up stepping in. When I say they leave with them, this is after they step in and stop the First Army from taking them in. Yeah.
Right.
She's like, do you want to fight? And he was like, they need to come with us. She's like, they want to fight.
Right. The machine gun guy is like, let's go.
Let's go. Say less. And they call themselves independent pirates, but we find out later they're privateers. They're part of this crew. And she's like, I don't know the difference. And basically they have a license.
Yeah.
They have a license to, I'm assuming, not necessarily pirate, but, sail the seas and trade and import and export.
Yeah, it's like Sir Walter Raleigh, he had a license to pillage.
Yes, exactly.
And bring things back to the crown.
So we're in some place. I was checking the map because they do that thing where like they have it written in English and then it changes. Mm-hmm. And was it Kabrisk?
Yeah.
Is that where we are? Mm-hmm. There are Ravka soldiers holding some Grisha at the fold in cages. And this just felt like January 6th bullshit. Like,
right. Yeah.
Where's Pence? It's like, if you don't take your ass home.
Right. Like, what are you even doing?
What are we doing? You ain't got nothing else to do. And then you see what happens to him. It's like, see?
Right. Who are you even talking to? There's like 20 soldiers.
Right. And they're just like, exactly. It's like... And then, she's like, I can help your men, because we're back with Genya. Is it Genya? Genya.
Yeah.
Genya. And I'm a healer. I can help your men. And he's like, you don't need to worry about my men. You need to worry about... And I'm like, why are we here?
Right.
Kill them or
and
don't.
And if you're really leaving them for the fold, shouldn't you leave them?
Exactly. Like, why are you standing around? And then when you see that he was like, this is... one of their men gets... It took me a second to realize what happened. Did it snatch that man out of his clothes?
Basically, yeah.
Because it felt like when the clothes fell, it felt like they were empty. I know it didn't have a head, but then the head gets spit back out, right?
Right.
Is that what happened?
Yes.
I was like, God damn. And that's when... Now, I thought this
personal.
was kind of... Yeah. I thought this was kind of cool. The re-emergence, the reappearance of the Darkling with his little... The guys I thought you were talking about. His little smoke buddies. His little... I just... the closed caption, because I watch everything with closed caption now because I'm old. I forget what they're called, but the sound it made, it was like chittering.
Yeah.
And I decided I hate that word. So in my head, I've been calling them chitterings, but I know that's not what they are.
Well, the ones that live in the fold are called Volcra.
Volcra, right.
And then these two that he created from himself, essentially, are called Nichevoya. And
Nichevoya, I have that written down. That's right.
That's the Ravkan word for nothing.
Ah, okay. So he returns with his friends and frees the Grisha that were in these cages and about to be offered up to the fold. And he's like, I'm hungry. Let's go eat. And like the others are like, yeah, salvation. They're like, and she looks shook. But like, what can you say? Like, of course, you go to Denny's with him. You listen.
All right. Yeah. He is so dramatic in this.
Yes.
Like, you know, we joked last season about how he probably has been practicing this for like 500 years in the mirror.
Yes.
And same in this. You just had to know he's thinking about it like, do I go out first? Do I send them out first? And then I will have them like swirl into my cloak.
And the way he like lifts his shoulders, and it's like he's doing like yoga. You know, you start and you roll up and you roll it up to your shoulders and then your neck and your head.
Right. And he's like, now I have to overthrow the king. Like, bro, you were always going to overthrow the king.
Right? Stop it. Let's see. So we have our new Crow Squad, which I love, by the way. I'm just reiterating. I know what I said earlier, but I like it. We have Jesper and Inej. The one the cop said it, he was like, Inej.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I like that. But then for some reason, I felt like I was saying Inej. Like Inez, but with a J on the end.
Yeah.
How do you say it?
Inej.
Okay. So, Inej, Jesper, Kaz, Wylan, and Nina.
Yeah.
And he tells Nina, Kaz does, that he can't get Matthias out, but he can get her a visit.
Yeah.
So that kind of felt like what I expected him to say, but maybe like less obvious. I thought he was going to say, I can get you in, and then you got to figure out how to get him out.
Yeah.
Is that what he was saying? Like, I can get you a visit, and then you just need to figure out how to use what you do to get him out? Or is she really just settling for a visit?
Well, that's a good question.
Okay, I know you can't answer stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think, yeah.
Okay.
He, you know.
How did he intend it?
It's up to her.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah. Gotcha. And then we see that he obtained some, I mean, it's confirmed later, but I thought it was pretty obvious, explosives from Wylan and Kaz did, and uses it to blow up the Crow Club.
Yep.
And I don't know why, like, when it blew up, I really expected, like, I don't know, maybe I watched too many Batman movies. I expected more to follow. I thought he was just going to blow up the menagerie, blow up
the whole block.
Just murder folks. Just
right.
And I'm
just stopped there. Yeah.
So are we to believe, like, I feel like when they mentioned later that they say we killed a constable, they're talking about the body that Pekka put on them, right? Not the fact that a cop died when they blew up the Crow Club.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So nobody died when they blew that up, right?
I don't know.
Okay. And
I think it was the middle of the night.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I was wondering. That's what I assumed. Mm-hmm. And then this episode ends, we find out that Alina, when she hooks up with, I'm sorry, I don't have their names written down till episode 2. Tolia
and Tamar, yeah.
Tamar. Okay, Tamar. Thank you. She's really with, don't tell me, Sturmhunt. Mm-hmm. Ha. Who I just like for some reason. I just like him. I like him.
He's great.
Yeah.
I like him much better later in the series.
Okay, good. That's good to know that it gets better, because I already like him. Mm-hmm. So she ends up telling them what she's looking for. That they're looking for the C-Whip, which is another amplifier, and convinces him to help them with that, instead of turning her over for money, because she can take down the Fold. And he was like, fuck all of that. You're talking money, danger, adventure. I'm in. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
Yeah, well, I think we're now in the beginning of the second episode, but
Oh yeah,
I
you can
don't.
go back. Go ahead.
No, it's fine, but like I don't love how she squabbles with him all the time. You know, like she comes in and is like, "You're gonna do what I say, bitch," basically, you know.
Yeah.
And he like, "You let us go right now," even though she knows they're in the middle of the ocean. Like what?
Yeah, I love that. You know, like I'm glad you actually brought back to that, because this is what I mean, where she walks the line of being that kind of like annoying kind of, she's special again, you know, they refer to her as a saint, where when he like swears on the saints or something, he's like, and is that, you know, bad to do it in front of an actual living saint? Like she knows, the character knows that they're special and acts like it when maybe they don't need to, if that makes sense, like in a very Karen type of way. But in this exchange, there was like a moment where I was like, yeah, like how does this play out? Because she is super powerful and she could sink this ship. But when he was like, we're already moving and we're really far out, I was like, oh, touche.
Yes.
Was there anything else? Because I was going to move on to them getting the suite.
Yeah, and I think, does he mention this here? No, I think that would probably be later. He says that later in the episode, so we'll wait.
Oh,
but she does mention that she's like, well, the Ravkan King will pay, because he threatens to turn her over to the Fjordans for the 20 million Kruger, according to the, you know, the wanted poster. And then she says, well, the Ravkan King will pay twice as much. And he's like, oh, you know the Ravkan King? And she's like, obviously, because I'm the Sun Summoner. And he kind of makes it sound like he's impressed, but that's not necessarily what we're supposed to pick up from that.
Okay.
So,
just
throwing that out there.
Okay, got it. So, Genya, is that her name? Genya. Why do I keep fucking this up? Tries to heal the Darkling after he reassures her that they will find David. And I do not remember who the fuck David is.
Okay, so
I kind of vaguely remember a man.
Right. So from the first season, David he had a purple coat. He was like he was Alexander's like number one Durst. He's kind of like unusually talented, more so than any of the other ones. And he's the one who figured out how to put the collar of the antlers into her collarbone.
And he was kind of odd. Right. And
he's supposed to be kind of like on the spectrum. He doesn't get human interaction.
And they had a thing.
She has a thing for him, and he kind of secretly does.
Okay.
But, you know, he doesn't know how to express it.
Okay.
But there were some really cute moments in the first season, especially where they're like trying to figure out how to get everybody together, and he like raises his hand, you know.
That's right.
And the Darkling is like, you don't have to raise your hand.
That's right.
David. Okay. Yes, David.
Yes. That's really right. Cool. So where is he? Well, if you probably can't answer that. I don't remember like where we last saw him, which is probably a better question.
Yeah, it's just like all the Grisha scattered.
Got it.
After the Darkling disappeared.
I wasn't sure if there was something specific. And then wasn't there also another male Grisha? Was he gay? He was kind of fun, and we liked him, or did we not like him? I don't.
Ivan and his Ivan and Fedor were partners, and
that's
remember,
right.
Fedor was like really charming, and he was the one that went to arrest Matthias and Nina, and she ended up, you know, that's when she got Matthias arrested.
That's right.
Slaving to get him away from Fedor.
Right. Okay.
But Ivan was on the skiff with the Darkling and Alina when he was in the finale, and so Ivan got thrown off the skiff.
Okay.
Because he was trying to kill everybody, because he's like,
that's right,
the hitman behind
yes,
the Darkling.
That's right. That's
so
right.
He died.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for the reminder on those characters. Got it. That was perfect. Yeah. So she tries to heal him, but there's only so much she can do because, well, one, he has like these like scratches. We didn't really talk about like what he looks like. He has like these scratches across his face. And when I say scratches, I mean like slashes. Like, right. Not like, when you scratch yourself too hard with your fingernails. And he seems weak. I don't know. I don't remember. I'm going to be honest. There's some parts, in this episode where my dog was being a pain. My mom called. Like, I have very broad understanding of what happened. And right. I was like, I know my girl Sarah got me. But I don't really know if he said explicitly, specifically, like what his deal is, other than I'm sure going, getting gripped up the way he did.
Right.
If it's just that he's having, or is there something specific that he needs to like stop from progressing?
Well, it's the fact that he used Murzost again to create these demons.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
He's like suffering the sacrifice of dark magic, basically.
That's right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. A lot of now stuff is just coming back to me. When you said that word, I was like, okay, that's right. I remember that from season 1. You explaining that before. Okay.
Yep.
And I have it here. The Nichevoya is with him always, basically. And when she's trying to heal him and it's not like working and he's like in pain, it feels like those things like lose their shit, and one of them like gets up in her face, and I was like, girl. I was like, you in danger, girl.
Yeah. He basically, like, her skills, she primarily focused on outside, the skin. And
she was healing
like that.
Yeah, she was healing like bruised lips last season and making people prettier.
Right, that was her particular touch. But the background of that is that she's kind of a healer, but not like that great of it. And so he's like, basically, maybe you could do a diagnostic or something. She's like, that's not really my thing, because she can kind of tell this is beyond her reach.
Got it.
So she starts with the hole in his hand, not realizing that this is like a nexus of dark magic.
Yes, that's right. And then she just looks like she wants to be anywhere but near him.
The tears in the eyes was too much for me.
Like what like I can't. She seems obviously just afraid of him. And I get that. I get why you would be and those things. But I can't tell if... What I would like is for her to dial it down a little bit. Because I can't tell because how should I say this? If you're that afraid, you need to act less afraid. Because it feels like he's clearly more powerful than you. He has those things. He could end you. If that's what you're worried about, you need to not act like you're worried about that, because it feels to me that he's just waiting for you to, like, I don't know. He seems to be very pro Grisha, obviously, right? Like, our people are persecuted again. Look at us in cages and all that stuff. So it doesn't feel like he wants to necessarily harm them, but he would, right?
Sure. Well,
so I don't get what the tears were about. Like, she's afraid of him, yes?
Yeah, sure. But, he has, like we've talked about, he has a particular soft spot for her. And you would think that, like, okay, somebody who has been big on self-preservation all these decades.
Right.
Just suck it up and pretend you want to be there.
Exactly. Yeah. That's I think, okay, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Okay. Even when she goes out of this scene, when she goes out there to the hallway, she takes like 2 steps and she's like clutching the curtains. I'm like, chick.
He can still see you.
Yes! It's like, what you gonna do if he steps out in the hallway? Will you take your ass to your room and cry?
Yes, like clutching her stomach,
Yes.
you know? And like, it's not that serious.
It's thank you. That's a perfect way to put it. Because I'm like, what? I get being afraid of him, but like you are walking like any second he could kill you, and he doesn't seem to be thinking that. But you acting like that,
Right.
Maybe
You push him over the edge.
right?
Yeah.
Like, bitch, why are you so suspicious? Okay, I'm glad I didn't get that.
Yes.
I didn't that.
Yeah.
And again, that's what I meant earlier, where it was she was doing so much that I couldn't tell if that's on her, if that's on the director. Like, if you want the audience to know that she's afraid of him, mission accomplished. But if you want us to feel like she has to not let him know that she's afraid of him, you're failing, because I would snap her neck. I'd be like, I can't trust you. You know? Like,
Right. I think it would make more sense, so much more sense, especially since, like we said, she doesn't, I mean, there's no reason to believe, like, he died and came back to life, or that, like, what he has created here would necessarily seem that much more monstrous than what she's seen him do already in the past. So it would make more sense for her character later in the season to play it cool and then turn to somebody and say, we got to get the fuck out of here.
Exactly. Question. Because of some of the scenes, I think, particularly in this episode, that I'm completely, like, I don't even think I wrote, like, notes on.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, anytime she was, you're going to kill me. Anytime Alina was talking to Darkling and them little dream world, whatever the fuck they were,
Yes.
I was just like, But also, my mom called, my dog was being an asshole. I'm not lying about that. But, so I know specifically in that first episode, she was concerned that the dream she was having, that the fold was spreading, was indeed actually happening, right?
Yeah.
And we see that it is, right? So it's his doing, though, right? So is it spreading, like, wherever he is like, did they touch on that and I missed it, or
They haven't explained why it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it is happening.
Yeah, I just get the impression that maybe it's unstable now that he's done this.
Right.
So it just kind of
That makes sense.
wandering.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Kaz remembers meeting Pekka via his brother as a kid. Right? And I wasn't sure, like, where this was going to go, because I remember them talking about the beef between them in the first season, obviously. But I don't remember if we knew the origins of it, and is this the first time? So I'm just going to ask, these flashes of this meeting, are these visualizations of things we learned in season 1, or is this the first time we're getting the origins of Pekka and Kaz's relationship?
Maybe I'm hallucinating, but
the COVID years.
COVID years, I don't know what happened, but I could swear we had a quick flashback in the first season of Kaz and his brother as two much younger boys running into this guy who swindled money from them. I could swear that's what I saw in the first season.
To go through, I'm totally going to go through my first season 1 notes later tonight. But definitely before I watch the next episodes, I'm going to go through those notes.
So maybe that did or did not happen, but this is now, this is their second season version of it, where they're both older boys.
And I have to say, like I said at the beginning, when they first showed this kid, the younger version of Kaz, and I was like, oh, this kid looks so familiar. He looks so familiar. Where have I seen him? And then I was like, I think this is the kid from 1899. But, it wasn't like he had, like, a lot of screen time. And there was, like, the first time we saw him when he was lying on those bodies, when he was having those flashes. And I think at one point, like, he opens his eyes. And that's when I was like, oh, he looks familiar. Then next time when you see him, like, up and talking and walking with his brother, I was like, I think that's that kid. But this is so... Have you seen 1899?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's so different from that role where he was like no emotion.
Right. Zombie kid.
Yeah. Yes, it was so creepy. So I was like doubting myself when I was going to IMDb.
Because he's so sweet and charming here.
Yes, yeah. I was like, oh, just forgetting, of course, that this child is acting. But anyway.
Right.
So Kaz gets turned down from somebody, and I didn't quite understand. Like, I understand why the guy was like, I'm not fucking with Pekka, and neither should you. But I didn't understand what he was asking this guy for and who this was.
So basically, this guy is, now they've kind of re-scrambled names and things like that from the book. So Kaz's crew in the book is called the Dregs. And their base is the Crow Club. So they're not the Crows, they're the Dregs.
Okay.
And, you know, it's supposed to be, obviously, the bottom of the barrel is the Dregs. So, so what they did here is his little crew is the Crows, and his gang is the Crows, and this guy is Per Haskell, and he's at the Dregs Club, and this is where anybody who's been booted out of other and shunned from other gangs, or somebody who couldn't like pass the test to get in a gang, you know, where you like kill the guy and hang it up on the thing. What, I don't know. What do you do to get into a gang? Anyway, all the rejects are in this group, so he needs muscle, you know, to get back at Pekka, and he's like, all right, you guys are all the rejects, so I'm going to pay you to join my crew. And the guy's like, even though we're the rejects, like, I'm not trying to get killed, so go away.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. He's like, don't show your face again out here no more. I was like, damn.
His little metaphor, like fear in a smaller glass, instinct, and then it's a sour cocktail, like, just... That's a lot.
It was a lot. And I don't, like, he lost me when he was like, because then he was, I'm so glad you said that. He was like, fear is something in a small glass. And then the natural thing is kind of like, you know, the whole thing like grief is like a little ball in a box, like that whole thing. Right. I thought that's where he was going, like the size. But then he went to the taste. And I was like, what does that have to do with the... I was like, it tastes bitter. I was like, what? What happened?
Right. Like, I get it, you own a bar, you know. But this is a really shitty bar, and I don't believe you guys have cocktails. So let's just... Like,
come on, just say no.
What is this even about?
Just say no if you're going to say no.
So but I think we skipped a couple of her dream sequences, though, with the Darkling.
See, and I'm not skipping none of the Crow stuff, but I cannot promise. So if you need that, you need to look to Sarah's notes. Go ahead, Sarah.
Right. I didn't want to like get anybody upset that we were skipping that. But
go ahead.
So I think the first one is when she falls asleep in the map room, and she's wearing blue, her blue kefta. And he says the whole,
which is gorgeous, by the way.
It is I just want to touch it, you know. He says like calls to like, which is you know, all over the book and all over every YA fantasy book. And they kind of go back and forth, and he basically says, you haven't suffered enough to understand what real sacrifice is. And she repeats again that she wants to take down the fold, and he's like, sure, it's a valiant goal, but are you willing to sacrifice the thing that's most important to you? And then like touches her face, and that's kind of the first indication that this is probably real. And then this, like, this is a hint to some of the missing material in the book when she spends a lot of time in this. I forgot to mention that she's after the events of like the Sea Whip events. She ends up spending a lot of time in an underground cult run by the Apparat. If you remember him from the first season, the priest guy.
Yes.
Who's like stalking her.
Yes. As soon as you said the Apparat, it came right back to me. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Because she confronts the Darkling in an underground chapel, like an old thing, and like siphons off a bunch of his power, but that weakens her, so she has to kind of regroup. And so she spends all this time underground and thinks that she's finished him off once again, but he continues to come to her in these creepy dreams that become more and more physical, where she realizes he's actually touching her. So that was just kind of a shout out to that. Okay. And then the second one, in the second big dream, this time she looks down and she's wearing the black and gold kefta that he tried to make her wear. So he's getting more control over her dreams, and he's made himself a matching one, which is of course what he wants. You know, Daddy's wearing the gold embroidery on his jacket, and they go back and forth about the past. And he says the past is the wound that won't heal, and she says your past is the reason for all ruin. And that's a shout out to the third book title, which is Rise and Ruin. And then they kind of go back and forth about Mal. He's like, look, I understand your deal with Mal and, you know, your tracker, whatever, but you need to understand. He's trying to explain to her, like, we're immortal, and you might be experiencing normal teenage shit right now, but, like, these people are gonna die and grow old, and you need to grasp the seriousness of the situation that you're in.
I'm so glad that you paid attention, because I completely forgot that aspect of it, and that's so true. He's like, girl, this is your 13-year-old self talking, essentially. Like, this is, talk to me in 90 years.
Yes, he's like, you're still, like, excited about your MASH book, you know, coming to fruition, but you don't understand, like, you could skip to the end and accept the fact that Mal is going to grow old and die. He's already jealous of your powers, which he was in the books. And he was a lot bitchier in the books, and Mal was. And she's like, you're just jealous of our love, which to me was hilarious. You know, like, us as parents of, you know, younger people hearing that kind of thing, like, you're just jealous of our love. And he's like, okay. You know, like, you haven't even made it past first base. Right, you know,
right. Yeah.
You can't even...
You don't know what love is.
How serious are you, really? You know, we made it past what you have, you know, haven't even done with the guy that you're with all the time, Alina, you know. And then she's like, so kills me with this, like, taunting, where she turns around like she's doing a striptease and slides his kefta off onto the floor, and he looks down like, what is happening right now? Like, is she getting naked? Like, what is this inappropriate? Like, he's, like, embarrassed, and she's like, I will never wear your colors again. Her dress is even black than the coat. What are you talking about? It cracked me up so much. And then she keeps claiming she doesn't want to hear what he has to say, but she's like sashaying, you know, and flirting with him. And it's just so, like, what are you doing? What is this? You know? So.
Listen, I have to say, I think I also may be a bit biased because I don't remember. I feel like we must have talked about this when it went down, but after we watched the first season, and I feel like this is like after we might have been done podcasting it too, there was something where, well, there was this stuff posted on Twitter because a black actress had talked about her experience on a TV show and how she had to do her own hair and makeup because they didn't have anybody that could do black hair and makeup. And it caused, like, these other black actresses to come out and talk about, and I'm talking like actresses who'd been on TV shows for years. And they were like, oh yeah, I did my own hair every day when I came to set.
Right.
And I think that, like, might have started, like, the whole thing in all these stories. And apparently it came out that in the first season of the show, they were doing I want to say, and please somebody correct me if I've gotten this wrong, the details of this, but like the gist of it was that the body double or the stunt person for Inez was white.
Mm-hmm.
And the discussion was around, well, why? Because she's not a white woman.
Right.
And the actress who plays Alina, I think, commented on it on Instagram, I believe it was Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember not liking her response.
Yeah.
But I don't remember what it was exactly, so I don't want to say,
Yeah.
But I trust myself, and I remember whatever it was, I didn't like it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I think the text of it was, she was just kind of going by like the real shallow details of production, in that they were in, I don't even know where are they? It starts with a B.
Budapest?
Yes.
Woo! Look at me.
Like that, and like that they were trying to hire somebody within flying distance, and that this girl was like an acrobatic prodigy or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so she just was like nearby, so they just snatched her and brought her in, and basically, but like it was pre-COVID as well, so at that point they could have flown someone in who, matched the nationality of Inej, and like they could have made more of an effort. And she was just kind of like, you just don't understand. Like there was like no harm meant. They were just pulling people in that were nearby, and so it felt a little dismissive and naive
and tone deaf a little. Yeah. I think I remember now. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing I don't think I mentioned, because I wanted to talk again about, like, I remember because chemistry, and you're talking about these scenes between them. When I said they got a suite, once he was like, these are our guests, and he introduced Sturmham. He introduced Alina and Mal to the crew of the ship or whatever. And so they got like their little bunk in the back, their little hammocks and stuff. Like, I thought it was so sweet when he was like, well, first of all, when he was like, well, this is not how I saw tonight ending either. Because I was like, yeah, because you ding dongs had to fuck it up. You could have gone back to your nice hotel room, took baths, had some sex in a nice bed.
Right. Like, you couldn't talk to the fisherman tomorrow,
right? But I don't know. I was just surprised by, they were like really leaning into that whole, we're fucking, like, as soon as we get the opportunity, or at least that's the plan.
Right.
But I thought it was
big
sweet.
talker.
Yeah. I thought it was sweet when, she's falling asleep and he takes out his book and he like holds her hand. I don't know. I like them together more than
I did think it was sweet. Yeah. And I think it goes more to their book character in that they're much younger in the book.
Gotcha.
They're not in their mid-20s like they are here.
Gotcha. Okay, so then the crows meet at this diner that looks way more modern.
Yeah. It looks like a Piccadilly. Like,
I was like, are we at Denny's? Like, yeah. And the way they treated this scene, is it like, I know this is like a completely fake world, but I mean, they've set up some sort of like semblance of time with like their technology. And I know, again, they have like magic and alchemy and all that stuff, but you get it. Like, they don't have TVs and shit and cell phones. So it just felt weird. Like, this whole scene, it felt like when you see that behind the scenes picture of the cast of Game of Thrones in their Game of Thrones clothes, but they're on their iPhones. Like, that's what it felt like. It felt like,
yes,
but like taken seriously. And the way they played the scene, the way they, even the picture, the glass picture, it felt like that came from Crate and Barrel. Like,
yes. It did. It was like they did so well creating all the other sets. and then it just feels like they just literally went in a restaurant and sat down. Nothing about that diner looked, place specific, time specific.
Yeah.
It just looked like any restaurant, and they weren't even that discreet. It looked like a huge restaurant.
It did. It just felt like they put no effort. They were like, we're filming in this Denny's, and that's what we're doing.
And then we're getting, a big slammer.
Yes.
Or whatever they serve there.
But yeah, so they meet in this, the diner, and they at some point, they all kind of question Kaz's, like, emotional, decision making, I guess, or plans for Pekka,
Yeah.
And he says at the table very clearly that killing Pekka isn't enough.
Right. Yes. Yeah. At first he's like, it's not enough, and they're like, oh, and then he's like, but because that wouldn't solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously you would hope that they've all picked up by now that it's more than that there's
that they know that there's something personal driving this. So he announces that they're going to try to get into Pekka's accountant's office, and he points out the building across the street, and Nina is just the fucking goat, because she like goes and gets a waffle or some shit. She comes back and she's like, yeah, that's his office, like third door to the left, second floor.
Right. Like, you could just ask questions.
Right. She was, and that's all she did. Like, I was waiting for them to be like, how did you know? And for her to be like, well, the accountant has a weird heart arrhythmia thing. Right. I don't know. She was like, I asked the waitress. And then, so she's the goat. And then you need to talk about Matthias and his cellmate with this that rotted lobster. I was so disappointed for him, because
horrifying.
I was like, wow, maybe Hellgate ain't that bad.
I mean, yeah, it looked pretty good, right?
Yeah, and then the guy was like, don't eat that. He's like, I would not eat that. He said, for my sake, you better not eat that. I don't want you in here shitting all night.
Yes. So, right. So he says that the lobsters are already spoiled by the time that they buy them, and then they cook them, which, can you imagine the kitchen? It's got to reek. And then he tells him that the bread is super hard, but you can dip it in this pail of water, and that'll soften it up a little and give it some flavor.
Yes.
And let me tell you... Is this, I don't know. I mean, it's obviously dirty water, but is it like dirty drinking water? Is it toilet water? What is it?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to know.
No. So this guy says that he also was in the same position, because Matthias he's like, soon I'm going to get out, and it'll be fine. And he's like, dude, he reveals that he's also Fjordan, and he says, you're used to our system of justice in which they keep track of all their, they're going to remember you and bring you out of prison, mainly because they want to make an example of you. Mm-hmm. And that's a harsh kind of justice. But here they just forget about you and who you are, and you just got to suck it up and deal. But, I have accepted my fate because another prisoner, reminded me of Gel, which is the Fjordan god, and, we can, through Gel, all things are possible, or whatever. Mm-hmm. But Matthias has what I don't know if it's a flashback or it's a fantasy, because as far as we know, he and Nina never had sex. Like, they had just started to kiss when her stomach growled and they went down to eat, and that's when Fedor showed up. And
I thought they did. They didn't? No. Okay.
Like, they were together all that time, but they were, like, out in the snow.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
So they did never, as far as we know.
I just remember a scene of them in bed
Yeah.
But
They
that
were
was
just
the
making
whole
out.
the body heat thing too. They were keeping warm,
Oh,
I think.
yeah,
Right?
that was after they nearly froze to death.
Okay.
But
Okay.
he was still in his, like, witches are scary phase at that point. So this would have been something much later that we didn't see. And first of all, I just want to say that if they did have sex and they didn't show us that in the first season, why? Secondly, either way, he's remembering this and saying, Jill can't forgive my sins because
That's right.
I've been banging a witch.
That's
and,
right.
you know, and let me just say that if you have not experienced the guilt of a religious, super religious man afterwards going on about how you, temptress, led him out of the Garden of Eden. Don't.
Would not recommend.
Would not recommend. Number one reason why not to encourage the current Puritanism revival in America.
Right? Oh, Jesus Christ. So we get more of Toya and Tamar on the ship, and because it's like the next day and they're above deck. And this is another scene that felt very stage play to me. Particularly, we find the Grisha who's going to be the one that fuses the amplifier to Alina. Like, her acting, like, it just felt very... It felt very stage play, but, like, I don't know. I wanted to look her up because it... Oh, I probably shouldn't say it. It just felt like it was... It just was not good to me.
This, as you said, this whole scene felt a little stage playish because like the cards, we don't know that Alina knows how to play this kind of cards.
Yeah,
because they say that it, you know, might be from Shuhan, this game, but maybe it isn't, and then, so she sits down, I mean, and then the way they're just kind of all sitting around, again, it just looks like they're about to break out into, like, It's a Hard Knock Life.
Yes.
You know, like,
Yes.
I don't, like, sit a little more normally, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
It was a lot.
But this scene, I didn't get that Toya, is that the sister?
Tamar is the sister.
Tamar, that shark tooth, I didn't get that was fused to her until they continue the conversation and she talks about the stag. I absolutely just thought, like, briefly that it was like an earring or something. And then the more they talk about, like, how, you know, she had to kill it I was like, oh, okay. That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
It's better than the horns in your collarbone, I think.
Right, and that is more normal as far as, like, the Grisha in the books, where they really just, they wear their amplifiers like jewelry. So this is more normal, you know, to, like, put it on your ear or something like that.
Gotcha.
You know.
And so they mention her plan to... She feels like the three of them need to come together, and I missed the third thing. There's the stag that she already has, the sea whip, which she gets by the end of this episode, and one other thing, and I missed that. What is that?
The Firebird.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. So then there's that scene. Yeah, this wasn't very good. Vladin, is that his name? Vladimir?
Vladim.
Yeah. Vladim and the Darkling. Vladim talks about possibly being able to reverse what's going on with the Darkling, and he says he doesn't want to reverse it. He talks about, I really kind of like this line where he says, all your choices have a cost.
Yeah.
It's important to make sure that the cost isn't regret. Like, he was basically like, you need to double down on all your decisions, even the bad ones. Like, you need to, if you know, like, I've already done this and this is what it cost me. now I need to see it through. Like, I need to continue to that's how I took it. Like, you don't want to get to the point where you regret it, and the only way that would happen is if your plans fail.
Right. Yeah, he's kind of like looking for some pain remedies, and he's the alchemy guy was like, you know, I could make you a potion, but it's probably going to come right back. And what cracked me up is he's like, I mean, maybe the solution for Merzost is more Merzost. And like,
yes, that's right.
That just tells you that this guy is like not a good influence, you know? Like,
he's like Kyber.
Like, what?
He's like Kyber, right? He's like,
yes.
It's like, fuck it, let's just fuck around and see what happens.
Right. Like, what if we made another one? You know? Like, what?
So then this is the other scene, like you said, these kind of like, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Useless? I don't know. The Darkling meets with this woman, and she's like, are you here to retrieve the journal or the other thing?
Yeah.
And he's like, the journal. And then she does some magic that reveals, or does he do it? I don't remember.
She does.
And it reveals that in like this cave, hidden place behind this waterfall, whatever, there's this journal. And I kept waiting, and this is, that's why I'm glad you brought this up at the beginning, because in this scene, I kept waiting for him to kill her or something. Otherwise, I could not understand why she was even here.
Right.
Like,
right.
I thought he was going to say, and now I need to kill you to, like, get stronger, or I need to kill you because you're the only person who knew where this was, or something. It just, I don't know. I didn't know what to take of this.
And I could 100% overlook. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I could 100% overlook her cheesiness. Ooh, hang on. Cat just walked across the laptop. Okay. If he had killed her. But she sticks around. Her name is Fruzy. Like what? Like floozy? I don't know. Fruzy. And her wig is so horrible. It's like not even combed. She's wearing this dark lipstick and this crazy black eyeshadow. And do you know who she is?
She looked familiar. Like, I remember thinking, like, no, you don't know her. Stop trying so hard. But she looks familiar. I do know her.
It's Rhea Royce. It's Daemon Targaryen's wife.
No.
Yes. And that is what is crazy to me, because you know she can look tough with no makeup on, but right. Here she is with this like Panic at the Disco, Fallout Boy kind of look happening, and no one else looks like that. Like, what is happening? She continues to look like this.
You know who I thought you know who she reminded me of? And again, it was just so because of how they decided to have her look.
Yeah.
Also from Game of Thrones. The girl who traveled with Bran.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, what's her name? I forgot. No. Not Yara. That was a sister. That was Theon's sister.
Asha.
Yeah.
Osha. It's Osha.
Right, yeah. Right. She reminded me of her.
Yes.
Like just a little,
same
like a kind of creepy, like, is she all there? Like, yeah.
Right. Yep.
For no
Natalie
reason.
Tina vibes.
And then he's like, now the other thing. As it turns out, he's had his mom trapped.
She didn't even know he was coming. Or maybe she did.
I don't know. She was like, you look like shit.
She's sitting there so dramatic. I mean, you can see where he gets it.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
So funny. And he's like, oh. He's such... Boy, it's so sad.
I was like... the way she was like... The whole thing, like, in profile, you know? Like, yes, she's staring out the window or whatever, which we never see. But you just see the light coming in. And she's like, I've been locked up here for like, what'd she say, weeks. And I look amazing. You look like shit. What's wrong with you? You come in here walking in here looking like shit. And then just turn, just look back out the window.
Yeah.
She wasn't afraid of him at all. So then what happened? So they approach the sea whip, and this is when Alina tells the crew that they're not going to kill it. But then they kill it. She kills it.
Yes.
She kills it to save Mal.
Right. She seems annoyed that... Wait, why have I... Hang on. Let me read my notes because I've got all caps here screaming. And I don't know what I... Okay. So she confronts Sturmhond about changing course. So she comes in there to yell at him again.
Right.
And she won't explain why they're going to a certain island, but he already knows why they're going. So, like, what is this argument even about? It was so dumb. Like, he's already been talking to them about the Sea Whip.
Right.
Obviously,
right.
That's where it is. And he reiterates, so in the previous scene, there was an exchange between Inej, just a brief one, between Inej and Kaz, where she's like, you have to trust someone. You can trust me. You can tell me what's going on with Pekka. And he's like, I'm not. And she's like, okay, you will eventually.
Right.
And so he reiterates this theme of trust because she, and of course Kaz, act like they've already been betrayed previously, which I think is kind of a weird point to make because obviously she would have been. If he knows what happened with the Darkling, he would know that she's been betrayed. But anyway, I think in this scene, this is the first scene to me where he acts more normally and he seems more like his later self. And I do like that, but she's kind of crazy. But yes, when they go to the weapons room, she starts like clowning him for saying like, you're putting my crew at risk, you know?
Yeah. Yes. And that's where it was just like, if you're going to say we're not going to kill it, then I need a little bit more than that. Like, okay, then what's the plan? Because my plan was to go in here and kill it. And that's what we know how to do. We don't know how to capture. And they're like, okay, we're capturing it. And I'm like, how? Yeah. And
where are you going to put it?
They didn't go in there like they were going to capture it.
No, they still didn't. Right.
Yeah.
Because what were you going to do?
Right.
You don't have ropes or anything like that. And this scene is interesting, and I guess I appreciate how they did it with the caves and stuff like that. In the books, it's the open seas, and like it is a sea monster.
Right.
Like,
see, that's what the other thing I was going to say. Like, I know it's a depiction on a map, and it's kind of like, you know, it's a map, and it's
right.
You know, but even from the depiction, I thought it was bigger than it was, to the point where I thought this was a thing guarding the Sea Whip.
Right. And visually, this is how I imagined the Sea Whip looking, so I appreciate that they translated it somehow that well. It's supposed to be kind of ice dragon-y, but also Sea Whippy, you know.
Right.
But it's supposed to be so big that it almost capsizes the ship. So, I mean, I get that they needed to contain that somehow so that the effects were cheaper, but it was a little
budget.
Weird. Yeah.
So Kaz in this whole heist, and I do enjoy these I remember as they were setting this up when he's like, you know, where they do the thing where the guy explains the plan, and as they explain, my dog is panting into the microphone.
I hear him.
As they explain the plan, you see like the layout of the place and all of that. I was like, oh, I do enjoy these. But it ends up being a trap, basically, right? You have Mogan, that's the name that I have written.
Of the mortician,
Yeah, on the rooftop with Inej. Jesper and Wylan get ambushed following the driver. And Kaz is confronted by Pekka in the office. I'm just setting everything up.
Yeah.
So the shootout pretty cool. I just like,
yes.
Listen, everything with Jesper is very like
so cool.
John Woo face off, slow mo. Like I just expect to see the fucking birds flying.
Yeah, I don't know what style that is where you slow down and speed it up and slow down and speed it up.
Right,
but
yeah.
They definitely use it with him a lot, and I love it.
Same. And I think he has so much fun with it. Like when he stops in between, I mean, he does this a lot in other situations, but like just making like these faces, you know, like in between a fight, in the middle of a fight, taking a moment to like look at Wylan and make a funny face about something.
Right.
Yeah. I love stuff like that.
And is this where he acknowledges when they're under the thing? He's like, oh, right. We do know each other.
We do know each other. Yeah. He's like, you brought me some waffles, something or something waffles.
Yeah.
And
I feel like and I hope I'm not like reading into this. Did you sense that what they meant was they hooked up one time? Because
oh no, I did not.
That's what I took from it. Like they hooked up one time, and then Jesper, like they had breakfast, and then he left, and they never saw each other again.
If that's so interesting, I'm so curious to see what other people took from that.
Yeah,
because if they were going for we hooked up once, I don't feel like that it didn't play that way. Like, but it could be that I see that's me because I don't see them as the same age. Like, I hadn't even considered that. Like I said, the thing under it felt romantic. Because that's typically what would happen, if that makes sense.
Right.
And it seemed like if it was like a man and a woman, there would be no question. I'd be like, oh yeah, that's definitely what they're doing. But it felt like a romantic situation. And that's when I remembered, oh, Jesper's gay. So this could very well be a romantic situation. But then just that quickly, I just didn't. I threw it out the window because I thought, but this guy is so young. This is a kid.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he says, "Oh, I do remember you," when they're like smashed up against each other, and then he's like, "See, you know," and it doesn't seem like he's emotionally hung up about it. He's just like, "I can't believe you don't remember me."
Okay,
you know?
that also no, I totally I get it. Like I would say that that's exactly what it was. I just didn't pick up on it for the reasons I explained. But that also puts when they were talking in the shop into like that scene, I see it differently and it makes it make a bit more sense because it was clear that they had met before.
Right.
I could not understand why Wylan was being so awkward about it. Do you know what I mean? Like I thought whatever the reveal is going to be will explain why he's awkward about it. But again, I wasn't thinking that because I assumed this is like a 14-year-old boy.
Yes. Yeah, because when Jesper first comes down, he's Wylan is like, "Oh, hey, I wasn't expecting you."
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And Jesper's like, "Who are you?"
Yes.
And then it gets real weird.
Yes. Now watching that, knowing that the character is an adult and is this guy's age, yes. But thinking it was a kid, I just took it like, oh, it's going to be something really awkward later. And when he was like, "You brought me the food," I thought, I was like, he served him or something? Like, I was not. Oh, my sweet summer child self. And the Darkling is aware of what's going on when Alina gets her scales, right?
Yeah.
And she gets the first one, and the girl is like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, fine. Give me the second one." And she goes to take the second one, and then she like uses like, I don't know, she's just like powering up. She's showing off. And it's clear it's not... Okay, well, first, I'm skipping something. When they asked about... when Tamara asked about seeing the stag's last memories...
Right.
when she fused with the antlers or whatever. And she was like, well, I saw it like I saw myself touching its muzzle, right? Yeah. And then she goes on and she talks about believing the fusing and all that stuff. When she gets the first scale, she sees the Sea Whip's final thoughts. Mm-hmm. And how am I crazy or was it focused on Mal?
Yeah.
Right?
And Mal's face is glowing.
Yes. Okay. I thought I was crazy.
Nope.
Okay. And then she kind of picks up on that, right? Because she looks at him.
She sees it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like she sees it. She acknowledges, okay, that's weird.
Right.
That's suspicious. And
wonder what that means.
Yeah. But then she takes the second scale, and then like she's just like high on her own supply at this point. She's just like to the point where I feel like they're making it very clear that it's kind of dangerous, right? Like Mal has to go in there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the difference in the energy of the creatures, where the energy of the stag was, very stoic and calming and powerful. Mm-hmm. And so she did get a boost in power from that, but it gave her like a greater control. Whereas the Sea Whip is this wild sea dragon.
Yeah, out there doing hood rat shit in the sea.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Killing motherfuckers first, asking questions never.
Terrorizing the whole neighborhood.
Right.
So it's definitely a completely different power to control. And so she's having a hard time harnessing it and, getting high off of the power.
So I think that's it. I think that's where my notes end. Is there anything you wanted to? I'm going to check for feedback really quick.
Yeah, I think just going back to the ambush and Nej's fight with the Mortician, I did not.
Oh yes, I'm sorry, I did skip over that.
Yeah, I love the fight, but I didn't love that character because they'll explain later in the season what his deal is, but in this scene, he seems to me too close to a superhero in a series about magic where you're already essentially a superhero, but there's a defined set of rules, and this guy is clearly breaking some kind of rule, and it does not make any kind of sense.
Right.
And I didn't love how he could just keep going. And even when they explain it, you're like, okay, but
because she does get two blades into him, two daggers into him, and he pulls them out. Like when he pulled that first one out, I was like, is he wearing a vest or something?
Right.
Like what is he, has an armor under there or something? But it felt like they were showing that it penetrated his chest, but it just didn't affect him. And she looked like, what the fuck,
Right.
She looks amazing, by the way.
She does. She did all that. She learned all that choreography.
That is amazing.
Like that. So she's very impressive.
And and I don't mean this in a negative way, but you can tell that she did it because it's so not even slowed down, but like I said, it looks very. You can see everything.
It's rehearsed.
Yeah, it looks rehearsed, and it's fine though because I feel like again, she looks like she might be pretty tall, but compared to this in just weight and size, like she looks so much smaller than this bulky guy that I feel like the fight choreography has to be done in such a way where it's just believable that she would use what she has going for her agility and all of that and her speed to kind of counter what he has going for him and have it work. So like I said, I love seeing it, but the execution I think could have been a bit better, but she looks amazing doing it. And you can tell, that it's her. Yeah. And then with the shootout, Nina got shot. I was like, I don't like this. Right. Because I need to say, I love her.
She's great.
I just love her. She's so pretty.
Yeah.
She's so I love her. And when she's the guy at the when she wants to get in and to use the bathroom.
Right.
He's like, "Ooh, a woman that can hold her liquor." And she's like, "Well, not all of it all the time, apparently. Can I use your bathroom?" And it doesn't work. And she does a little hand thing.
Yeah.
By the time he realized that she was doing something with her hand, his heart was already fucking up.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, she got shot and I didn't like that.
No.
No. But they make it out and rendezvous at the crypt in the cemetery, right?
Yeah, like a little family mausoleum.
Right.
Yep.
And what was that with Inej getting cut? I forgot. I feel like that I should know the significance of that, right? Like, was that like more than just he was cutting her arms? Like, does she like get less?
No, he was just like, because his deal is because he's a mortician, he was cutting in the exact right places so that she would gradually lose strength and, and he would just be able to take her.
That's stupid. I didn't like that.
I know.
I kind of wanted it to be. I thought, is this something special to her and her ability or something? Like, I thought, because they act like she was more gravely wounded than what I saw him do. Mm-hmm. But if what we're saying, what he was beginning to do, like that was the purpose. Like these are precision cuts and precision places that don't seem like much, but together they can kill you. Okay, that would explain why it felt like she had 2 cuts in the back of her arms. And they were like, is she going to be okay? And I'm like, yeah, get her some Band-Aids. Like, what are we talking about? It felt like there was more going on, that it felt mystical to me. That, like, I missed something, but...
Yeah, I don't know if he nicked an artery or something like that. But, I mean, she wouldn't be able to make it back then. So it couldn't have been too serious. And again,
because she did a lot after that, right? Like when she gets the jump on him because of the gunfire, and she jumps off the roof and all that with the rope.
Yeah, and then gets all the way to the cemetery, which is like out of the city limits.
Yeah, it's weird.
So I really think they should have, like with that character, they should have either made him a mortician, and so that's why he's so scary, because he knows where all the important parts are, or it's a guy who can't be hurt. You can't put them together.
Right. And then what was the deal with Pekka and Kaz? Because he says something like, I got what I came for, but I'm drawing a blank on like what he got out of that. Kaz said that? Yeah, because he said something like already he told me what I needed to know, or I got, or something like that. I thought he said.
We don't know what he was looking for yet.
Okay. Got it. So, yeah. Because somebody like apologized, like, sorry, it was a we got, and he was like, no, it's okay because something. Like,
right, because I already got whatever piece of information.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That we find out, I think, next time.
Got it. Okay. So we don't have any feedback yet. That's not unusual. Apologies again. I mean, look at me. I'm sorry my dad died, and I am. But so I probably shouldn't be apologizing. But again, we were supposed to start this sooner after it dropped than we actually did. So I understand that, I didn't expect folks to wait on watching it and stuff. But I know that there are people waiting for this podcast. So thank you for waiting so patiently. But we are on track now. And like I said, we're going to meet once a week to talk about these 2 episodes at a time. I try to go by Sarah's schedule, like whatever she got going on. We just kind of link up and say, hey, what's your week looking like? And then we pick a day that works for the 2 of us. So it may not be published on the same day every week, but it will be weekly. And I adjust the calendar accordingly. So if you want to send in feedback to be on the next podcast where we talk about episodes 3 and 4, like I said at the start of the show, you can send that to feedback@projectfandom.com and I will read it on the podcast. I can't really do like predictions because it's not really gotten going yet, if that makes sense. But I can say what, if you care, because I know you've watched ahead, if anybody cares, what I'm really like looking forward to. I'm curious about Stormhand. Is that his name? And because I feel like the scene where he was alone talking to Alina, that scene that you talked about earlier, and then I think Tamar came in and was like, we're there, or something like that. It felt like she, after they left the room, she was like, did I interrupt something? Like, and I couldn't tell if that was like if it was one of those, did I interrupt something romantic, or one of those, just did I, like, what's up with those two type things? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Between who?
I'm talking about? There was a scene with Sturmhahn and Alina, and Tamar came in at the end of it to tell them something, and they left the room, and then the camera focuses on her, like, picking up a vibe in the room, like what did I just, what's up with them? And I can't tell if it's the typical person picking up, were these two about to fuck or something? You know what I mean? Like, did I interrupt something? Or was it just her picking up that there was clearly friction between the two of them?
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm reading more into it. So maybe that's nothing, but that's something I was curious about. That said, I am now way more interested in Wylan and Jesper.
Yes.
I didn't know it was gay.
Right.
So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what's going on with that. More of finding out what's going on. Like, what exactly went down with Pekka. If this was told to me in season 1, I completely forgot, but I'm curious to see what happens with Pekka versus Kaz going forward. And I'm sorry, like, I'm just not really, I really don't care. Like, you know what? I will say, I want to see a Firebird.
Yeah.
Are we going to see a Firebird? Because isn't that like the next thing, right? Like, she's trying to get all 3 of these things. Is that her, like, video game mission? She has to get the feather.
That's the next of Morzova's creature. Oh
my God. If she gets wings, I will watch 20 seasons of this show. If she gets wings of fire? Look, man, I'm doing too much. Is this like vampire time? Am I doing Sarah's like, girl.
Probably.
Sarah's like, girl, she's going to get a beak. A bird beak. I'm setting myself up for disappointment.
No. Yeah.
I'm interested in that. I will say that's like the next big thing, I think, with her story. I'm interested in seeing this creature. But like with her and the Darkling and him and possibly coming between her and Mal, I don't care for it. I don't want it. I want her and Mal to be happy.
No.
I'm disappointed you haven't. I'm sorry.
I can't believe you are a Alina shipper.
I didn't even know that was a thing. Am I? Oh.
Listen, they are so aggressive too. They will come on there because they're like, the Darkling is not age appropriate for Alina. How could you?
That's true.
He's just a sweet little country girl.
I mean, that's a point.
This is fantasy, though.
True. Is
the ageless villain ever age appropriate?
Never. No. Absolutely not. Edward was not appropriate at all. What are the shippers for the Darkling and Alina? Wait, don't tell me. Delina? No. Darkina? No, that's stupid. Arklings?
No.
Oh, what are they?
It's Darklina.
Darklina and Melina.
Yeah.
I like Arkling way better. Arkling? I don't know. That's kind of cool. Arkling sounds like a creature, right?
It's a little too close to Arkin, I think, from the first season. It was the guy that hired the
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess. Oh. You shippers, get it together with these names. Come on.
I mean, it really doesn't
portmanteaus.
matter. You know, if you're a Darklina fan, I think you can see where this is going. But, you know, it lives on in the fan fiction world.
Of course it does.
It's where I live.
Y'all don't let anything die over there.
We really don't.
Y'all make shit up over there, literally. Y'all give birth to all kinds of shit over there.
My top 3 ships.
Oh my God. I refuse. And it's funny because there are so many things in my life that I have been adamant. I'm not going to do, and then I'm all in it, like anime. Right.
Well, I think,
K-pop.
I think it partially comes from, like, the Darkling in the book is trash too, but, like, Mal in the book is trash. So
I think we talked about that, right? We did talk about that. I think we talked about the fact that Mal, because in the first season, in the books, he fucks that girl.
Right, Zoya,
that's right.
Yeah. Who also fucked the Darkling. So, you know, he's just kind of like, he's been kind of hoeing his way through the army and ignoring Alina and then acting like Alina is a child. And then when he finds out she has abilities, he like negs her and he's like, I wish you could be normal. Why can't you be normal? God, why do we have to put up with this shit? So like, even though he finds all of these creatures for her, he's also spends the whole time bitching about how he wishes she was normal.
I am so glad that, you know what that sounds like to me? That show that we did not finish, and I do not think I'm going back to, Wheel of Time. That motherfucker was annoying. What was that redhead name? He was annoying.
Yep. I don't remember.
But that's
name.
Yeah, I can see when you were saying all of that, I was like, oh my God. Because he was like, didn't he just want to go home and have some babies in the woods or some shit?
Yes, and of course.
But then it turns out he's special. Like, right?
Yes.
He's the one. Yeah. Ugh.
Right. Yeah, that's the irony, right? Because, of course, Rand is the special boy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm so glad they're not doing that with Mal, especially because it feels like Mal is special. Especially because it feels like they're saying there's something up with Mal, right?
Yeah.
Because
there is something up with Mal.
And like, because also he could hear the frequency.
Right.
That's the whole thing with him being a tracker. I remember that. Like, he helped them. It was through him that they found the stag to begin with, right?
Right.
And then here they knew exactly where the sea whip was because he could hear the frequency. So he is special. Yeah. I'm glad he's also not a dick. I'm so glad they didn't have him hoeing his way through the army in the show.
So far.
All right, so that is it, you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing, and we'll be back next week with more Shadow and Bone.